This is Lesson 109 in Saxon's second edition, Algebra 1/2. This lesson is on percent word problems. Now this is one of those lessons where, like before when I told you you had to write the terms in alphabetical order, I'm going to know whether you watched the video for this lesson because I'm going to tell you something different that the book does not tell you or tells you to do differently. Alright, so up until now we've been drawing the little circle diagrams when we have percentage problems and word problems. At this point I think that most of you pretty much have that down pat. You understand the process now, and so I feel like it's a little redundant to have you keep drawing those circles. So we're going to concentrate just on setting up the equation and finding the answer. All right, example 1 says 20% of the clowns had red hair. If 40 clowns had red hair, how many did not have red hair? All right, so 20% had red hair. 40 clowns had red hair. They stand for the same thing. So we set that up as 20 over 100 times what number equals 40. All right, and then once we have it set up, we simply have to isolate the variable, and that's what that's called. That's the correct term, meaning we're going to get n all by itself. It is isolated. All right, and then we're going to do the math over here. I can make this a 1 and this a 2, and 2 times 100 is 200. Now, is 200 my final answer to this problem? Does it answer how many clowns did not have red hair? Well, no, it doesn't, because this 40 is just 20%, and 40 is 20% of 200. So we need to know the other 80% of the clowns, how many was that? We can find that out by simply subtracting the 40 who did have red hair from the 200 total, and we get 160, which would be the correct final answer for this problem. Example 2 says when the fog lifted, the number of frogs that could be seen was 140% greater than before the fog lifted. If 40 frogs could be seen before, how many could be seen after? All right, so this 40 frogs could be seen before. 140% greater than before. They are not the same thing. So they're going to go on the same side of the equal. And then n is already going to be over there by itself. So equals n times 40. Now, remember when there's an increase in percent, instead of 140, I'm going to use 240% because before the 140% increase, it was already 100%. This is another 140. All right, so then all I do is just do the math. I can take this off and this off, and I can take this, and then basically what I've got is 24 times 4, which is 96. So 96 is how many could be seen after. That is 40 increased 140%. Example 3 says 40% of the trees were in bloom. So were in bloom. If 1,200 trees were not in bloom, how many trees were in bloom? All right, well, in this one, we're going to say, okay, 40% were in bloom. But we're trying to find out here what would be the same as, what percentage would be the same as the 1,200? Well, if 40% were, then that means that 100 minus 40 is 60, so 60% were not. So we need to find out 60% of what number equals 1,200. And again, we're going to isolate the variable and cross cancel these out. Let's see, I can take this and this, and I can take this 6 and make it a 1, and 6 will go into 120 20 times, and 20 times 100 is 2,000. Now, like in example 1, this is not my final answer. This is the total number of trees. Total, okay? Now, we know that 1,200 of those were not in bloom. We're trying to find out how many were in bloom. So we simply subtract and we find out that 800 trees were in bloom. Alright, for your first practice problem, it says 30% of the trees had red blossoms. If 600 trees had red blossoms, how many trees did not have red blossoms? So we will set this up. 30% and 600 both represent the same thing. So 30% of what number equals 600? We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And then we cross cancel these out, and n is by itself. And 30 will go into 31 times and into 620 times. And 20 times 100 is 2,000. All right, now this is not our final answer. To find our final answer, we're going to say, okay, if 600 of these 2,000s had red blossoms, how many did not? Well, we're going to subtract 600, and we'll find that 1,400 did not have red blossoms. All right, James found that the glob increased from 400 pounds to 640 pounds in just 3 hours. What was the percent increase in the weight of the glob? So in this one, this 3 hours, that's just irrelevant to finding out this solution to this problem. We have an increase of 240 pounds. So we're going to say that 640 is what percent of 400? And then I'm going to divide both sides by 400. Got rid of that. Let's get rid of this. And 4 will go into both of these. 4 will go into 40 10 times and into 64 16 times. Well, let's use 8, because 8 would go into both as well. 8 goes into 45 times, and it goes into 64 8 times. Now I've gotten rid of those. 8/5 equals what percent? And I'm going to multiply by 100. Get rid of that. This will become a 1 and this a 20. And 20 times 8 is 160. So 640 is a 160% increase over 400. All right, that one may have been a little bit more difficult to figure out, but if you have one like it, just go back and refer to this in your practice, and that'll help you work it out. Good job. I'll see you next time for lesson 110.